Hello, welcome to this course in learning AWS in 30 days. This is my first course in the Devops series which I have planned. In this course, I'm planning to talk about different AWS services for the next 30 days, covering the concepts, explaining the concepts, and like talking about the best practice and showing a hands-on demo of how different services works. So the objective of the course is by end of 30 days, you should feel more confident in working in the AWS ecosystem and using the different AWS services. Also, to get the fundamentals right, so even if there is a new service, you should be able to go and learn the service by yourself. So that is my objective. And the prerequisite for the course is actually nothing. So you can be a complete beginner, you can be a college student, you can be a working professional, senior, junior, whoever it is. I'm planning to start from scratch and slowly build to the expert level. So that's my plan. And yeah, to to say like who am I? Like the interesting part. Who am I to explain all those concepts? So hi, I'm Prasanna. I'm I'm a software engineer with nearly 15 years of experience. With the last 6 years, I'm working as a DevOps freelancer and consultant. So I started my career as a junior developer, senior developer, and then I moved to tech lead, architect, freelancer role. So I have wide variety of roles in my career, and I have a different way to understand things and explain the concepts. So I thought I can share the DevOps knowledge with you. If you are keen in learning the DevOps concepts, please consider subscribing to my channel. And coming to my AWS experience. So I'm using AWS for the past 8 years, deployed different applications to production in AWS, use different services, and I'm an AWS certified solution architect. So yeah, so I thought like I feel AWS is really good, and I thought everyone who's interested in becoming a cloud engineer, they can start with AWS. It's a very vast cloud, and pretty much the concepts remains the same. So if you can learn one cloud properly, it will be like very easy for you to learn other cloud providers as well. Yeah. So to accompany this video course, there is a GitHub repository, um, and I'll share the link in description below. So this covers the list of topics which I'm going to talk for each and every day. But this is a tentative one. Once a video is out, I'll try to update the topics with the corresponding notes which I have. Yeah, I think like that's it. Welcome to the course. Happy learning. Yeah. The agenda for today's session is it's going to be the introduction to cloud computing and the core components which led to the evolution of cloud computing and about the introduction to AWS and how it compares with other cloud providers. And finally, to set up a AWS free tier account. What is cloud computing? I thought like this picture neatly summarizes the difference between the era before cloud computing and after cloud computing. So you can see how messy the environment is. It is because there are a lot of wires, lot of network connections, lot of servers, and this has to be handled by each and every company. That is the most difficult part. And let's say like if someone unplugs a wire, it's very difficult to find what wire got unplugged. Leave out all the network issue, electricity issue, and things like that. So this is like very difficult to manage. And in case of cloud computing, so all the servers has to be managed anyhow, but that is managed by cloud providers. So the cloud providers are nothing but AWS, GCP. AWS is Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud Platform. So someone is managing the cloud for us, which means all the servers, network, storages, everything for us. And we'll be like just using a very simple client. The client could be your web browser, or it could be your command line application or the programs which you have. And this will directly talk to cloud and leverage the systems there. So that is the objective. And there is like one more subtle aspect to it. Like if you run servers, you have to take care of all the security aspects and, as I mentioned, the power outages, redundancy, and all those things. So all the cloud providers will take care of managing these things for us. So that is a good part. And maybe like it's not a definition, but in a layman terms, what is cloud computing is leveraging the resources provided by cloud providers and and paying only for the resource which we use. So if we create one virtual machine, we are going to pay only for that virtual machine, and if we stop that machine, we don't have to pay. So it is that easy. Maybe like just to give a comparison here, let's say like if we want to buy one more small box like this, one more server, which means we have to write a purchase quotation, we have to purchase actual hardware, connect it to somewhere like this. It will take days, like weeks or even months. But in case of cloud, this will be in matter of minutes. If we say if you want to have a VM, we can create a mission within minutes. If you don't want, we can stop it within a minute. And as I mentioned, the cost is also uh, the cost is per usage level. I think Amazon charges at a per minute level. So it will round off to the next nearest minute, and you'll be paying only for that running hours. So that is the advantage in having cloud computing, and this is a cloud computing. And I just thought of talking about the evolution of cloud computing. So you can see there is a concept called distributed computing. Distributed computing is nothing but having multiple machines or servers and then connecting them together. So all these machines will be connected together, and they'll work as a single unit. So that is called as distributed computing. So if you submit a very big job here, it will distribute the workload and then you'll give back the result. So the output will be getting the output back. This is objective, but you can see the year is 1950, which means it is very costly to set up to have a software like this, which will do the distributed workload. And the geographical location also matters because there is no internet at that point in time. So all the machines has to be within one single location and it cannot be accessed from outside world. So these are the problems in distributed computing. And slowly other things got evolved like grid computing, cluster computing, mainframe computing. All this to have the processing of very big data. And then like there is one interesting concept which got evolved, which is virtualization. It's around the year 1980. Uh, I'll just talk about this virtualization. So again, like this is in a very layman terms, just to make sure like you understand this concept properly. This is one machine. You can see that machine will be having a hardware. Hardware in the sense it will have RAM, it will have storage, it will have all the input output devices and everything. And on top of this hardware, there is an operating system. It could be Linux, whatever OS you are having. And on top of that, there are applications which will be installing. So this was a traditional machine architecture. And this concept called virtualization, it got introduced, which means there is a very thin layer which is added between the operating system and hardware. So this virtualization layer gave the power to separate one machine into multiple machines. So in this case, the underlying machine is one machine, which means like there is one hardware, but there are two machines actually, and this machine is called as virtual machine because it's not actually a machine; it's a virtual entity. So there are two virtual machines available now, and all the segregation of the resources, like for example, how much cores it should allocate, how much storage it should allocate, everything is defined in the configuration, and this machine can access only its resources. This machine can access only its resources. It can't go and access the other machine's resource. This security layer is provided and everything is handled at the virtualization layer itself. So this is the beauty of virtualization. Yeah. So this concept got evolved, and but this is also like around the year 1980, which means like it's way back. I think 40 years before. And there is like one more concept which is called Web 2.0, which became popular after 2000. So the Web 2.0 is it's a very straightforward one. So maybe like everyone will know about this Web 2.0. Like this is 1.0, this is 2.0. So for example, in Web 1.0, it is nothing but static sites. So if you want to publish some information, you need to have direct access to server. So either you'll be SSHing into the server, like you'll be getting into that machine and then copying some files there. So that files can be read by the users, which means basically all these things are like blocks without any comment or likes. So it is a static block pages which the end user can read, and that's it. There is no contribution back to the server. But this 2.0, it's it's a dynamic nature. So and it became very simple after the creation of the language called JavaScript because that enabled the dynamic nature of web pages. So what is meant by this dynamic nature? For example, you are logging into LinkedIn. You can create a post in LinkedIn. Even though you don't have direct access to the server, you can create a post here, and this post will be saved in the server machine, and it will be served to other users also. And for example, if you logged into LinkedIn, your content will be like totally different from other person who's logging into LinkedIn. All this is because there is a dynamic nature which got added to it, and there is a secure way to connect to the server from the web browser. So this is actually a web browser, and there is a secure way to make changes in the server, make changes in the sense like adding more data to the server. So that is the power of Web 2.0. Yeah, so these two concepts played a very big role in cloud computing. So now coming to this cloud computing concept, for example, let's take the example of AWS itself. What AWS will do is they'll buy the big machines, like as we discussed before, like they'll be buying the hardware and they'll be having their own data center. But they'll split that hardware into multiple smaller chunks and they'll give that smaller chunks to the end users. So, for example, if I want to start a virtual machine, I'll ask AWS, hey, can you give me a virtual machine with this particular configuration? I'll be requesting it using, let's say, like from the web browser. I'll be contacting AWS, and it will be giving me this particular machine. And you can see like this is using Web 2.0 because it has a proper security mechanism, and I can use a web browser to go and allocate request for the resources. So this is how Amazon is taking care of uh, like giving the VMs using the virtualization concept. And again, like yeah, it's using the Web 2.0. And this is what the basically the cloud computing started. And there are like two types of cloud computing. Like one is public cloud and private cloud, which we'll talk about later. And there is like one more concept which got evolved, and that is called containerization. Um, I'm planning to like take one more course very specific to containerization, specifically the container orchestrator, which is Kubernetes, and that is for another day. But it's also a very interesting concept, and it builds on top of this evolution. Yeah, now coming to this two types of cloud, public cloud and private cloud. It's a very straightforward. It's not like that complicated one. For example, public cloud is which means it's accessible by everyone, and the resources are shared with others. Maybe like just to give a very concrete example, let's again take an example of these two VMs, VM1 and VM2. If you have used services like Swiggy or Zomato, let's assume like both Swiggy and Zomato, they use AWS. and Swiggy is asking for one VM. And Swiggy and Zomato, they are competitors, and Swiggy is asking for a VM. So this VM, there is a chance like this VM will get allocated to Swiggy, and this VM can get allocated to Zomato. Even though they are both competitors, they use the same hardware. But because of this virtualization layer, it it has a complete isolation, and Swiggy will not know it's sharing the hardware with Zomato, and Zomato will not know it's sharing the hardware with Swiggy. And similarly for other companies as well, which means irrespective of the companies or irrespective of the clients, they can share the same hardware. And AWS has a very good algorithms to make a better utilization of their hardware. So the advantage here is it's very cost effective. So if you create a VM, it's very cheap compared to create a VM in private cloud. And the other beauty is this managed services. Just to give another example, let's say like you want to run a database, let's say Postgres. The first approach is either you can buy your own computer and you can install the Postgres, I'm sorry, and you can expose it to the outside world. That is like the pre-cloud era. The other approach is you can buy a virtual machine from AWS and you can install the database inside this virtual machine and you can give access to this machine from the outside world. So this is one more type. There is one more type which is called as managed services. Like for example, in Amazon it's called as RDS. And there are like other databases as well, but I'm just taking the example of RDBMS, Postgres. So what is the beauty of this RDS is it will take care of all the DBA activities, database administrator activities. For example, taking the backup, having high availability, monitoring, logging, all those aspects are taken care by AWS itself. You don't have to do anything, which means a single person can develop the application, he can create the machines, he can create the database and manage the database. So he can do all those things. That is the power of managed services. And this is possible in almost like all the public cloud providers, AWS, GCP, Azure, DigitalOcean, whatever it is. They have their own set of managed services, which is a very good thing for companies. Now, coming to the private cloud. So, private cloud is basically opposite of this. For example, if you have a hardware, it is very dedicated for your company alone. So, it is not shared with any other companies. You'll be having your dedicated network line, you'll be having your dedicated storage, and everything will be dedicated for you. Mostly people will go for this because they have the compliance and it is highly secure, obviously. Because, for example, let's take a worst case scenario that there is something which is happening here and it is crashing the underlying hardware, which means this Swiggy, they didn't do anything, but their application will also fail because the underlying hardware is failing. But these scenarios will not happen in the dedicated machine because it's independent to their company alone. And if their company do something wrong, then the hardware will go down. But it is very costly because it's completely dedicated for your company. So there is high maintenance cost and high setup cost as well. And the maintenance cost because you have to set up everything for yourself. If you want to run your database, if you want to run your services, everything has to be set up by yourself. And there are companies which are providing the private cloud. For example, Red Hat, VMware, OpenStack. All those providers have the private cloud capabilities. But now we'll focus on public cloud and especially on this part, AWS. Yeah. So this is mostly like a convincing part. So why AWS? First, we'll talk about the cloud growth. Um, so this cloud computing, it is the year-on-year growth of cloud computing is more than 10 billion. So what it means is in 2023, there is some revenue which cloud computing got. And in the next year, it grown by 10 billion more. Actually, the delta is 10 billion, which means it gone nearly 18 percentage. So approximately like 20 percentage. And this is not happening just for 1 year. It's happening for the 5 consecutive years. So that is the growth of cloud. More and more companies are adopting the cloud technologies, and everyone is coming to cloud first approach. And there is an organization called Cloud Native Computing Foundation, which we'll discuss in later sessions. But cloud native is the approach which all the companies are leaning into. And now coming to the operating size, I just want to compare three major cloud providers. So, like we talked about AWS, which is Amazon Managed Cloud, and there are other players like, for example, Microsoft. So their cloud provider name is Azure, and Google, their cloud provider name is GCP, Google Cloud Platform. So these three are the major players in cloud computing. And to give the size of their operating size, Azure is two times the GCP, the volume of clients they have, the volume of computing they are doing. Azure is two times bigger than Google Cloud. And AWS is Azure plus GCP combined together, which means that is Azure. AWS is a leader in cloud computing, and it is like both. It's larger than both Azure and GCP combined together. So that is the operating size. And just to give some of the highlights of AWS, like there is always a first mover advantage. AWS, Amazon started its provider AWS in year 2006, and their first service is S3. That is a time period in which no one knows about cloud, and they are the first ones to start. And for the next 7 years, maybe I think not 7 years, next for 5 years, there is no major cloud provider. So Google, they started their app engine in 2008, but they got their app engine to public release in 2011. So from 2006 to 2011, Amazon is a only player in the market, and that is a very big advantage. And the fourth part is customer obsession. So I just want to talk about one scenario which I faced. So when I started with AWS, there was some misconfiguration or something like that, and my account got hacked. And someone used my account for running the blockchain mining. It was like they used a bigger size machine, and the cloud bill was like a pretty big amount. I raised a support ticket to Amazon, and they gave a refund to me within 12 hours. So whatever the charge which was incurred for that month, that got waived off within 12 hours. So that is the kind of customer support Amazon has. And even today, that is the level of support which they maintain. So that is also one more reason why most of the people start with AWS, because of their customer support. And it's very customer friendly. That is also an important point to be noted. Yeah, and hopefully this is more convincing to you to get started with AWS. But I just want to share the history of AWS with you, because this seems to be very interesting. I got this information from Fortune and other websites. That is an interview with CEO of AWS, like the current CEO of AWS, who's Adam Selipsky. So Amazon, it was started by Jeff Bezos in the year 1994. And Amazon was started as a online book selling company, online bookseller. So that's a first service which they have, and they were doing it in online. And by the year 2000, their development team, they faced a major problem. Like for example, it's very difficult for their development team to set up an infrastructure to manage the storage and all those things. So internally, they discussed like we should have some kind of infrastructure, and that infrastructure should be given to the developers, and they should be focusing only on functionality, not on the infrastructure side of things. That was proposed on 2000, and it went well. So Amazon felt like the developers were very productive, and they're building functionalities at a much faster rate. So after some time, like they released this S3 in 2006. So many people felt what the online bookseller company has to do with infrastructure because that is not their domain. But Jeff Bezos made a statement which was very good. So he said like Amazon is a tech company which will solve customer problem. So that's it. So this is a thought process behind Amazon, which means fortunately they find selling books is a customer problem, and they solved it using tech by bringing it online. And this infrastructure is also a similar customer problem, which Amazon is trying to solve using tech by giving the cloud computing. So it was like it's very convincing, and it was very convincing for a bookseller company to start an infrastructure company, infrastructure division within that company. So like they started AWS in 2006, and then I think in 6 months they launched their one more popular service called EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute, which is nothing but VMs. And around like January 2011, Google launched their app engine. So you can see like there is like around 5 years of difference. Even though they started in 2008, their official launch was in 2011. And by that time, like AWS, they started their reinvent activity. Reinvent in the sense their yearly meetup for AWS. So they'll be conducting sessions, they'll be making announcements, they'll be launching different services as a yearly event. So that is called reinvent. It's happening even today. They became very mature in the cloud computing platform. And to just give you some growth, the rate at which Amazon grows, in 2015, the revenue of AWS is 6 billion. In 2016, it is 13 billion. It nearly doubled in 1 year. So that is the rate at which AWS was growing. And to compare AWS with Amazon, so AWS operating size is 4 times more than that of Amazon's operating size. Amazon has a e-commerce site, Kindle, and other divisions. But AWS size is 4 times more than that of Amazon. And AWS profit is 3 times more than that of Amazon's profit. So that is the power of AWS within Amazon itself. And just to give you one more aspect, in 2024, the Amazon share is more than 50% in the cloud computing. So which means it's having the majority of share, which means majority of clients are using AWS. So that is the bottom line. Yeah, so this is about the history of AWS. Nice. So this is mostly the theoretical part which I want to cover. Next, we'll see how to set up a Amazon free tier account. As I mentioned, there is no charge for 12 months. You can use most of the resources which we are going to have in this course for free. And I highly recommend that you set up a AWS account and then you follow along with me. This is going to be a complete hands-on course. So please set up, and yeah, we'll see there. Yeah. So now we'll see how to set up AWS account in the free tier. So yeah, so like open your browser and then you can search for AWS in Google. So like based on your usage, like you should see a create account or sign into console. So because I've already signed into console, it's giving me the option of this. But if I go to root user, like I can see create new AWS account option here. So I choose that one. And yeah, so this is a sign up for AWS. So I created a new email ID for this, and I'm giving the name is and a verification code will be sent to my email ID. Okay. Yeah. So here you can choose a personal for your it's because it's for your own purpose, and then you can give your name and your phone number um, and all the details of your house and things like that. Um, in the next step, I think this is some maybe like I just give a dummy number or something. Email address. Yeah. So here you have to give a credit card or debit card number. So this is where like AWS will make sure you're not a bot and you're actual person creating the account. They'll not charge anything, but like I think they'll be charging just ₹2 or something to make sure like that account is a valid one. But this is a mandatory step. Like you have to give your credit card or debit card details. But this will be like falling under the free tier. So basically, free tier is um, they have set of services which are given for free for 12 months time period. For example, like for EC2 instance, they have 750 yards. S3 there's 5 GB of storage. So all this services with their specific limits, it's available for free. So you can like mostly like our 30-day course, it'll not exceed all those things. So we'll try to cover it in the free tier itself. Yeah. So you have to enter your details, credit card details, and then like you just have to accept the verify signature. Maybe like I'll just stop the screen now and then my details, and then I could able to come to this page. So I choose the name, and then I'll select the personal use as a purpose, ownership as individual, and then it'll ask for my PAN also. So I'll enter my PAN, and then I'll say like continue. Yeah, I'll try to stop sharing my screen. Yeah. So once I verified my phone number, then this will be the last page. So I'll opt for the basic support plan, and then I'll complete the sign up. So once this is done, like I can go to AWS Management Console. So these things are done. I'll select my role as Devops. Yeah. So hopefully you should have completed the account setup successfully, and congratulations. And if you face any issues in setting up the account, please let me know in the comments. We can check it together. And I just want to do last one thing, which is to log into your account and make sure you can see the AWS console. So yeah, so you should able to see this console page. If that is the case, then it's good. Everything is set up. Yeah, and this is the introduction session, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.